Hey everyone, it's Kevin Wald of Perlego. Well, we are all enthralled with these amazing breakthroughs delivered by OpenAI in the form of ChatGPT and the GPT-4 model. So most large enterprises are beginning to plan initiatives and strategies for taking advantage of this technology. Unfortunately, there's very little discussion about the practical limitations of building applications with these tools, and today I'm going to discuss 3 limitations that you really need to consider before you get started. Most large enterprises are currently talking to Microsoft to leverage the GPT-4 model within their Azure suite of services. And that's simply because Microsoft is a lot easier for big companies to work with than OpenAI. OpenAI is small, they don't have the infrastructure or the people to handle the interfacing and support associated with a large enterprise. So it's a lot easier for big companies to go straight to Azure. Unfortunately, you better take a look at the fine print because the way you can use GPT-4 models through Azure is highly restrictive. So I'm going to discuss 3 dimensions today. The first one is quotas. Take a look at the details page about how you can deploy models on Azure. Microsoft is highly restrictive in how much you can use the models. For example, with GPT-4, you can make only 18 requests on the model per minute. Not per second, per minute. So if you've done any kind of large enterprise work, you realize this is totally unreasonable, and there's just not a lot you can do with 18 requests per minute. These limitations are going to constrain using the GPT-4 model to small teams or work groups for very specific point solutions. Even trying to do development and deployment and testing and production at these levels is going to be very difficult, and obviously you're not going to be able to handle any bursting workloads. So quotas are going to be a challenge. The next one is cost. So it costs about 3 to 12 cents per 750 words when you're working with a GPT-4 model, depending on the parameters and whether it's an input or an output. So to generate the blog post that came with this video would cost about 10 cents. And if you start looking at scaling up to enterprise levels and solving more complicated problems, those costs are going to get very high very quick, especially if your development team is testing a lot of different options. The final of the 3 is latency. And if you've played around with ChatGPT and used the GPT-4 model, you probably realize that it is slow. And there are some challenges with scaling up this speed that are a lot different than the typical type of challenges you would have in a cloud architecture. It's because GPT-4 models are very big, they take up a lot of memory, and they deliver results sequentially. So you can't use a lot of traditional scaling techniques of spreading the computing out across a lot of different computing resources, and you can't use techniques like caching that would push the data further to the user and drive up scale. So these challenges are going to be difficult to overcome. What's the bottom line? Well, I have no doubt that the metrics on quotas, cost, and latency are all going to improve by orders of magnitude over the next 1 or 2 years. That's just how technology works. So companies are going to start figuring this stuff out. Unfortunately, I don't see how even that level of growth is going to be able to keep up with the demand because there are so many potential uses for this powerful technology. Even if Microsoft is able to improve these by 2 to 3 orders of magnitude, the amount of demand they're going to have from the enterprise customers is simply going to overwhelm this. So you're going to need alternatives. And that's why there is only one direction all this is going, and that is it's going to drive demand for open source solutions. Even if you just end up using them as part of your development team, you're going to need a way for your teams to quickly test and iterate on different ideas that your customers have without making slow calls and expensive calls to Microsoft APIs and waiting for an answer. So I hope this is helpful. It's going to be an exciting time to see how the open source community develops in response. Have a great day.